What is up, y'all, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Natanya and I make videos where I teach women how to build a profitable business, but I also am going to be talking about marriage and dating and courtship, all that fun stuff in between. So if you are completely brand new here, welcome to this channel, and be sure to hit that subscribe button and also hit the bell notification so you know when I upload my next video. So today, in part 2 of this relationship series and my other Vlogmas video, I'm gonna be answering some of the assumptions that you guys sent into me about getting married, courtship, and engagement. And I'm gonna be just throwing in some other assumptions that I also had as well growing up. And we're just basically gonna talk about it. If you have not yet watched part 1, be sure to go ahead and do that now, because I kind of more or less prefaced what these series are going to look like, but I'm going to say it again right here, right now. Anything that I'm talking about is more or less my own beliefs. Maybe you resonate with it, maybe you don't, and that's totally cool, but I am talking about marriage, dating, and courtship through a biblical and faith-based Christian perspective. So we have Christian values, we got Christian beliefs, we got a different way of doing marriage through the lens of being a faith-filled believer. And I got some questions that I'm going to be answering through that perspective. So one question that I got is it true that young couples usually have a lower chance of happy marriage? Well, 1, I'm not married. 2, I'm not old enough to fully answer that question because I'm still 23. But what I can say is I've seen that, I've researched that. That was honestly a fear of mine, of getting into a relationship so young. So I met my fiance when I was 18, and that was 5 years ago, which is such a long time, and I actually still very much remember all the details and all the how the entire event unfolded. But that was definitely something that I wouldn't say struggled with, but I definitely was nervous, because I did hear a lot that when you're 25, that's more or less who you are as an individual. At 19, 18, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 24 and a half, apparently you're still figuring out yourself, you're still finding out who you are, what your values are, and what you enjoy and what you don't enjoy. So that part I did find to be true, in the sense where I'm 23, I'll be 24 when I get married in a few months, and I can say that I'm still figuring out who I am. So I won't be able to properly answer that question in the sense where, is it true that young couples usually have a lower chance of having a happy marriage? And I think, based upon what I've done my research on, is that's the reason because you're still so young. I put quotations on that because, you know, you're still so young and you're still figuring out who you are. So because you're still figuring out who you are, then when you add on the layer of being married, you then add on the layer, I won't even call it a challenge or a complexity, but you add on the layer of figuring out who you are. Even you still have your head on your body and you still know who you are, more or less. You know your identity, you know some values that you like and what things that you don't like, and you know you have a good sense of who you are, but you're still figuring that out. And then you add that on with marriage and the mysteries and the complexities that marriage naturally brings. And then you also add on the layer of that other person that you're with is most likely in that same age group. So they're most likely going through that self-discovery as well. So you have 2 imperfect people who are, you know, getting married ultimately to give God the glory and all that great stuff. But then you add on the layer of you figuring out who you are, but also knowing without a doubt in your mind that this is the person that I'm going to be marrying, and I know for sure that I want to be with him and I want to be with her forever and ever and ever, while that other person is still figuring out who they are and what values they hold, but then also looking at you saying, yeah, I'm going to be with this girl for the rest of my life. So that is where things get really complicated. It gets very it can get very challenging, and you will encounter challenges. I would say, because you are young and you are married, but there's also a massive amount of like benefits and pros, if you want to say. Not that I would make a pros and cons sheet about getting married young or not, because when love finds you and you see it and you know it, this is it, you don't really have the option of saying, you know what, I'll just check back in 2 years. Like, that is not a thing. That person could move on in 2 years. That person can pass away in 2 years. Like, when true love finds y'all, like, and the person that I was 3 years ago is not the same person that I am at 23 turning 24. Certain things that I expected at 19, 20 in a relationship, more or less, are not the same expectations that I have now. And I can only imagine where I'm gonna be and where me and him will be when we're 30 or 29 or 27, and how we're going to change. But what I can say is the beauty of being married and young, what I prayed for and desired was to be able to grow up with someone and to be so flexible, knowing that we're still figuring this thing out called life, not on our own, but together. And one thing's for sure is that I'm not going anywhere and you're not going anywhere, and we're going to do this together, and we're going to figure out what we like and our values together. And that of course comes with its own set of challenges, because you may feel like in 3 years time you may wake up and feel like you're somebody different, you value different things. But what I know to be absolutely true, doesn't matter if you're young, you're old, you're in the in-between stage of being married or getting to being married or in a courtship relationship, is that if two people are, you know, determined to making sure that this relationship works, and you know that a shadow of a doubt that this is exactly where I'm supposed to be with this person, and I am making also the conscious decision to be with this person, then as long as both individuals have that and share that same mindset and walk that mindset out, it does not matter if you're 40 and you wake up and your favorite color is red and you now want to join a circus and you want to be a gypsy. Like, that stuff no longer, those stuff is not going to be a huge blow or detriment to your relationship, so long as both individuals are committed to loving each other unconditionally, no matter what type of course life throws at you. So that was the mindset that me and my fiance came into this relationship. Like, we're young, I was in nursing school at the time, and now I run a business. Like, what if he fell in love with me because I was going to be an RN? Like, what if that was the case? So now that I am not an RN, I still am an RN, but I'm not practicing and using my license at the moment. I'm focusing on my business, and I'm going to be doing my business full time and not being a nurse at all. My life has gone into a completely different direction, and it's not an issue. It's just like, okay, well, this is what she wants to do. Awesome. The bills will be paid. She's happy. I'm happy. That's it. So I said it to say that both individuals have to be completely on one accord. Okay, so the other question that I got is, how do you deal with the pressure of planning as a unit? Do you ever bump heads? This is a really good question, and think of it like this. I love to use this analogy. Planning as a unit and planning a wedding and being in a relationship every single day feels like a group project. Okay, we've all been in good group projects and really crappy group projects where you're doing all the work, and that's pretty much what a relationship feels like. It is like a group project, y'all. Like, I can't think of anything else to make this analogy. So like any even good group project where you have team members who are ready, active, they're attentive, they're all doing their fair and equal share, you still have like schedules to balance, and you still have different ways of doing different things. But 100% you're gonna bump heads, you're gonna have disagreements, you're going to be frustrated at times, and that's just a part of life. So yeah, definitely the pressure of like planning as a unit. I wouldn't say there's like a pressure of planning as a unit. Sometimes there is the pressure to like get that wedding planning done as quick as possible because of COVID, and because certain states and provinces are in a second lockdown. So that has been like the pressure to plan as a unit and to get everything like planned out as soon as possible. That way when things do open up or restrictions are not as strict, you kind of have an idea as to what different plans are going to look like and when that's going to be. So I would say that there's definitely pressure there, but there's no pressure on our family, there's no pressure on friends, there's no pressure that we have on each other. And yeah, you're definitely going to bump heads. You definitely are going to come into this planning process with your own preconceived notions and beliefs, and that may not necessarily be the case. I know that was for me, and I have definitely learned, like, you know what, we're two different people who see things differently with two different perspectives. We honor that, and we admire that, because that is the reason us apart, like why we are together anyways, because you don't want an identical robot to be with. But you definitely gonna bump heads, and when you do, as I said, know that it's completely normal. It's not the end of the world. It does not mean that you should not be with the person. I said this all in part 1, and 2, just flow with it. It's a part of the journey, and the journey is sweet, so just flow with it. The other reception that I got is, do you ever feel lonely waiting for the right person to come along? Who, y'all are just asking some really, really good and deep questions. 100%. Like, yeah, you're definitely gonna feel lonely. You're definitely gonna feel like God, like, why me? Like, everyone else, oh my God, I remember, everyone else is in a relationship, everyone else is happy, everyone, and it's just like, just watch part 1, because I talked about the sense of reality that we have to come into courtship and dating and marriage, and making sure that this reality is completely true and aligned with the word of God and not with what you think to be true. So there were many times of feeling lonely before I got into this relationship. Even though it wasn't as long as other people's experience, I 100% did that good old comparison game, and you should never do that, but we do it all the time. We see another person get engaged and we're like, so God, like, you don't see me down here? Like, I desire to be married, I desire to be in a relationship as well, and nothing's knocking. There's nobody there. There hasn't been a suitable bachelor in eons, in donkey years. Like, that is almost like what it kind of feels like. And 100% definitely felt lonely waiting for the right person. And like, you've probably heard it before, you will reach a point within your life where I would say for the most part, you're a little bit more hypersensitive to like every single male human being that comes into your vicinity and comes into your presence, and you're like, God, is this the one? Is this the one? Is this that definitely was me. And on, like, I wasn't counting, but maybe like on the 5th try, like, it worked. Like, I've seen a lot of people say it wasn't until that they like stopped focusing on a relationship did they finally get one. And that was the case for me at one point. Like, I wasn't in official relationships. I liked a few people and it just obviously didn't work out, and glory be to God, y'all. Glory be to God, it did not work out. But I was like, you know what? This is not working. And I'm doing it in a way that it's not working, and it's just not working, and I have to try a different approach and different strategy. So let me see what else is there. And I definitely took the focus off of, like, you know what, God, here is my list of things that I want in a partner, and here are what I'm looking for. And I will say that my list was not long, and I got, to my memory, everything on that list, even down to the height. Like, I'm 5'7". I was like, Lord, please let him be taller than me. My mama said my partner will be the same height as me because I'm so tall, and he's 6 feet. So down to that very list. But I also knew that that was not going to be something that I was gonna be like, oh well, he's 5'7", 5'8", can't work. Like, I wasn't gonna be superficial like that. But I wrote down a list, I gave it to God, and then I was like, yeah, whatever happens, happens. And then I think I saw him like the next month or a few weeks after that at church, and I was like, again, God, is this him? Is this him? And it wasn't like I got like this, like, yes, this is him, this supernatural experience. And if that's your story, awesome. It wasn't for me, but it was just like, okay, maybe it is him, maybe it isn't. And slowly but surely the relationship developed and it grew, and now we're getting married. So yeah, I said it to say that yeah, it's totally okay to feel, it's totally okay to feel how you feel. I will always say that I'm a huge supporter and believer in validating your emotions and how you feel, because how you feel is how you feel. But also knowing that how you feel does not necessarily mean that's exactly what's going on. Yes, you're feeling lonely right now because you're waiting on the right person. And that's okay. It's okay to feel lonely at times, and it's also okay to wait for the right person, because we've all seen and heard about failed relationships and people who tried to take their own process into their own hands, and they were not fruitful, they were not successful, and it backfires in their life. So it is better to wait and to marry the right person than to rush whenever your time will come because you were impatient. So in those moments of when you are feeling lonely, it is totally okay to feel how you feel, and to also remember that if you, like, here's what I believe in. I believe that if you desire to be married and you know it is not the will of the Lord for you to be a single person, and you desire that relationship with that person, I do believe that it will happen. I do not subscribe to the belief that a marriage or relationship is not promised or guaranteed to everyone. Marriage is honorable, and it is definitely 110% okay to desire that. God has also built us that way. So if you desire within your memories, within your body, you desire to be married, and you know being single is not your portion, you will be married. When? I don't know, but I do believe that it will happen, because I don't believe that God will place those desires within your heart and within your body and for you not to act on that. That's just my belief. Do not hang me. That is just what I believe in. Another assumption that I got is you have to date for years and then get engaged. Woo! No, that is definitely not true. Actually, I would say within my culture and within my specific subset community, I think that there's actually a greater emphasis on not dating for a long time and then getting married in order to not fall into temptation. And I definitely believe and I understand why that mindset and why that advice is given. But I also know that it's so important for you to get to know that person as much as possible within healthy boundaries, so that way you know as much as you can what you are walking into marriage like and with this person, and what that potential relationship can and will look like. You definitely do not have to date for years and years on end and then have a really prolonged engagement and then finally get married. I also recognize that the longer that you are in that limbo in between stage with that person that you desire and you love and you want to be with, you can fall into temptation. You can also fall into like this limbo state of being content with where things are, or the other person is more so pushing for things to go forward and the other person is saying soon, 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 next time. So I definitely believe that if you are embarking on the journey of courtship, that it is very important that both of you understand where this relationship should, or where this relationship can be anticipated to be headed, such as getting married. And you both know that that is the ultimate intent, and we are here to figure out if that is where we should be going. And then once you know, or once you have a really great piece about that, go ahead and I would say take the next step. But you will know or not if the person that you are with is a villain. You will know or not if the person that you are in a relationship with is a dragon. Like, you will know if they are the Loch Ness monster. God will tell you, like God will show you signs. You will have a lack of peace that will not make you feel completely ready to take that next step and to progress the relationship into greater intimacy and for taking that leap to be married. You will know. God will show you signs that this person is a detriment to your well-being and your wellness. You will know. So that's what I believe in. Like, you can also match up this person's characteristics and personality traits and behavior and mindset and beliefs with the word of God. And so long as it is not aligned, then that person is not the person that you're supposed to be with. But I really hope we can delve deeper into what that looks like specifically, because I've also heard of like, well, he or she wants to do this and this, but maybe not all of this. So I definitely know that there is some gray stages, and that's why talking about relationships is just so complex, because it's not an end all be all, and that's not what I'm here to do at all. But I will say that you don't have to be in a relationship for long to know if this person is the one that you should marry. I've heard and seen so many people who have seen that person once or twice, and they've been married and they've never turned back since. And I've also heard of many stories of people who did not do their due diligence of vetting and thoroughly searching God if this is the right person that I should be with, and they went ahead of God, and ignored the blind spots and the red blaring alarms and signs that he was showing them, and they did their own thing, and it backfired as what that end result was going to be anyways. So definitely say seek wise counsel and ultimately be guided by the Holy Spirit. Another assumption that I grew up hearing more or less is that you have to do a certain set of actions in order to qualify to being a wife. Who, Lord have mercy. Oh my, I need my tea. I don't know where this came from. I don't know who started it, but it needs to end, and it needs to end now. You do not have to qualify for marriage. I want to say that I'm sure you also have seen people who are in relationships and you're like, how did you get in a relationship? How did you end up with that person? Like, that comes to show you that you don't have to qualify to being a wife. Being a wife is not a reward for your labor. It is not from doing good works or doing certain things. It is not from praying certain prayers. It is not from, even when I say it's not even from staying pure or chaste or maintaining this self-righteous attitude. Like, it is actually not from that. There are so many people who I know that have fallen within their relationship, and God still blessed them with their relationship. So that's an assumption that I came to like accept as like, oh yeah, like you have to do these things in order to qualify to being a wife. And absolutely not. Like, you do not qualify to being a wife. God does it in his own good and godly timing, when God believes that timing is right. Like, it is not from you doing things. It's not about reading a certain amount of books. It's not about, talking to marriage people and taking everything that they've said and implementing into your own life. Like, that is not it at all. You do not qualify to being a wife. The Bible says that he who findeth the wife findeth a good thing. And we know that means that you were found as already in the state of being a wife. That doesn't mean that you are a wife when you get married. You will be a wife to that person. But when my fiance found me at 18, or when we encountered and we met, in that state, I was already walking to being a wife. Like, that's where you don't qualify for being a wife. So right now, if you could only see what the next 5 or 10 chapters will look like within your life, you then can look back at where you are right now and know and rest comfortably in that identity that I'm already a wife. I'm just not married to somebody else. I'm not in a relationship with somebody else, but I know that I already have these characteristics. That means that I already am encompassing that spirit, like of being a wife. So I really hope I explained that properly, but just driving home that point that you don't have to qualify to being a wife. You don't have to do certain actions to being a wife. Okay, you just are. And that immediately takes off a whole ton of pressure, because you don't have to perform. You don't have to continue to do certain amount of actions that society may teach or your parents may enforce in order to qualify, in order to be a good wife or a good husband. You just are. So that was it for today's video. It's kind of like a part 2 of the very first video, and if you have not yet already, be sure to subscribe to this channel. I definitely am going to be talking about entrepreneurship and marketing and beauty and vlogs and fashion and all of that on this one itty bitty channel, and I'm really excited for that. So thanks again for watching, and I will see you in my next video.